Welcome to Writer's Block. This is going to be a roughly 8-week series taking you through my journey to try to get back into writing again. I'm going to work on 6 short stories, and I'm going to take you through the process of each one. I lied. Welcome to the series finale of Writer's Block, which means it's going to be endlessly disappointing and controversial for years. So, this isn't necessarily going to be the end of the entire channel, but this is going to be the last video of this project for school. So because of that, I felt it would be good to talk about the project as a whole and kind of what I learned as the experience, if you will. So what I learned in this class with this project was okay, no, not really. But as you can see, what I just did was I was kidding, or I lied, or I changed my mind. And that is actually one of the big things I learned doing this project for this class. During the class, when we had students kind of talk about their videos and their projects, it seemed like just about every student changed something throughout the course of the project. There weren't too many students who had an agenda day one and they just stuck to that to a T. And the project lived out to be exactly what they intended. It seemed like most students had an idea and either they took a completely different left turn or they kind of like retooled the idea a little bit. And I pretty much did the same thing. This was originally going to be a project about like getting back into writing and writing actual scripts and screenplays and ideas and then kind of showcasing that. But I kind of got a little absorbed in the idea of just talking to a camera and kind of teaching writing in a way. That proved to be a little bit more fun and a little bit more user-friendly, I guess. Because all of the video production I'm doing here surrounds the idea of kind of a low budget or no budget. This is like a gateway class of sorts. I'm not going out and filming a documentary necessarily. So I kind of had to work with the limitations of what I had. And unfortunately, if I'm writing in an ideal world, I would have fancy animations and I would showcase all the cool stuff I wrote. I don't have a lot of ways of doing that. So the idea ended up kind of segueing into more of a how-to of sorts and talking about my experiences. So that in of itself is one thing that I kind of learned doing this project, was that ideas change constantly when you're doing stuff. And it happens a lot. You listen to any DVD commentary, learn about the backstory of any piece of writing, learn about the production of something. It's almost never, he had this idea and then he went and did it and then that was it. You learn about what the original idea was for something. Most of the time it's like, wow, really? It started out as that? And it ends up left turning into something completely different. That's essentially writing. Writing is getting an idea and then turning it into something very unrelated. And that's that sense of like improvising and that kind of like unexpectedness of where everything's going to go is one of the things that makes writing enjoyable. Is it's very unpredictable. So I think I kind of came more to terms with that with this series. It kind of helped me realize like a lot of times when you start out with something, it's just gonna shift somewhere else. So I think this project helped me to kind of understand that and come more to terms with it and almost expect it to happen. So if I get any kind of idea eventually, like, oh, I want to do a story about it's Red Riding Hood, but told from the perspective of the grandma or something. eventually that's going to turn into Schindler's List 2 or something. Um, so just almost expect that to happen, and get excited about it in a way is one of the big things I learned from doing this. Um, with that in mind, another thing I think I learned quite a bit is how important and really necessary the editing process is in creating something. Um, when we think of editing a video, we think of more just like trimming out the unnecessary stuff, or getting rid of all the stuff you like, all the kind of wasted parts, or shortening it in a way, just getting it all pieced together and Frankensteining it. Um, but really, it's more to that. More often than not, the editing process helps you kind of reshape the writing in a lot of ways. You're able to reshape the story. Um, the editing process kind of gives you more of a hands-on look at every single piece of what was created, and you can almost like fine tune every little part of it. When you sit a camera down and you just kind of go, it's a little different. But when you sit down and edit every little thing, you can go like, oh, what if I did that instead? Or what if I added this sound effect? Or what if I changed the lighting here? What if I zoomed in here? What if instead of this, he said this? You come more to terms with really what the final product is. You're taking a bunch of kind of like jumbled parts and making it into something cohesive. So while I did do some writing over the course of this project, it did ultimately turn into something else. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not like, oh, I didn't really write, but I did these other videos instead. So, it doesn't just feel like a loss. It feels like it started out as something and it turned into something else. And every project is a learning experience, even if it was a disaster, even if I hated every video, even if this channel just crashed and burned. Every failure is a learning experience, if you will. So as you can tell, I've learned a lot, or I've learned very little. Does that mean I've succeeded a lot, or I don't know, that's going to keep me up later. Anyway, the point is, this was a project that was a learning experience, and I think that that's in a lot of ways what you want this to be. Is you want to feel like you got something new out of it. Also, in general, I think it allowed me to just kind of play around with small production in a lot of ways, and in a way I think that helped me be a little bit more creative. And I think kind of working with the limitations of that in a way helped me a lot as well. So I want to lastly thank everybody for watching, for tuning into this project. I don't really know what the future holds for it, but as I just talked about, that's kind of what makes it fun too, is not knowing. I mean, video 8 or 9 or 10 or 20, who knows what those projects are even going to be. But when we find out, that'll make it all the more exciting. So thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something about, even if you don't really care about writing, I hope you learned at least something about the creative process, or you just got a couple of laughs out of these series, or even just some nice little background noise. Even that is makes it worthwhile for me. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the future for whatever that might be, which is going to be probably